Devastating sights from Sri Lanka. Cyclone Ditwah brought record rains that triggered landslides and floods across the island country. We pray for all Sri Lankans affected by the natural fury. Hello and welcome, I'm Samiksha Srivastava. Let's begin. Last week, the island nation of Sri Lanka was ravaged by its worst natural disaster since a devastating 2004 tsunami. Cyclone Ditwah lashed the country's eastern coast last Friday, bringing catastrophic floods and landslides which left hundreds of people dead. Many are still missing. More than 30,000 houses have been damaged. Over 1.4 million Sri Lankans have been affected by the fallout of the deadly cyclone, prompting President Anura Dissanayake to declare a state of emergency. Our next report brings you the details of the tragedy befallen upon the Sri Lankans.
Sri Lanka, which endured its worst financial meltdown in more than 7 decades in 2022, is a nation on the road to recovery. Just when the first signs of financial recovery were on the horizon, the island nation was hit with Cyclone Ditwah last week, in one of its worst weather disasters in years.
It rained non-stop for 3 days. We heard about the warnings of flooding, but we didn't expect water levels would get this high. As usual, we moved our belongings that could be moved to a higher level, but that didn't help. Everything is underwater.
According to the country's Disaster Management Center, at 4th of December, at least 474 people have been left dead. And around 400 people are still missing in the wake of the deadly cyclone. But the officials fear that the number of both dead and missing could rise significantly as many areas remain inaccessible due to continuous rain, collapsed roads and unstable terrain. On Wednesday, as floodwaters receded in capital Colombo and the surrounding districts, many neighborhoods continue to remain submerged, forcing mass evacuations. The situation in the Central Highlands is worse, where the relentless rains triggered landslides, buried homes and cut off entire villages. The rescue crews have deemed the conditions in certain zones too perilous, compelling halt in search and rescue efforts. Electricity and running water got cut off for a third of the country. A state of emergency has been declared by President Anura Dissanayake, who labelled the deadly cyclone as the most challenging natural disaster in the country's history. Military helicopters have been deployed to reach people stranded by flooding and landslides triggered by Cyclone Ditwah. Reportedly, the scale of destruction is so massive that it will probably take weeks to assess the full extent of the damage done and to arrive at the daunting cost of reconstruction. At a challenging time like this, the much-needed initiative taken by volunteers like Mohammad Nawaz is heartening.
We're fishermen, but when floods hit our communities, we don't wait to be asked. We step in on our own, using our boats and whatever we have to rescue people who've been displaced, and we make sure they get food, drinking water, and the basics they need to stay safe.
When heavy rain started, the 71-year-old Sri Lanka repairman B.S. Wickramasinghe and his son Pradeep rushed to move all their equipment to his shop's second floor. confident that the rising waters would never reach that height. But he was wrong.
The
next morning, I decided to check out the situation. There is a post office nearby, and it had gone underwater. That's when we knew our shop was destroyed. We knew we had lost everything. Everything was washed away by the floods. Now we are destitute. We will have to start from zero again. There were electric goods which we had repaired, spending 100,000 rupees of our money. We had a lot of electric and electronic goods. We have lost about 7 million rupees in total.
Reportedly, children heavily reliant on essential services like water, healthcare and schooling are among the worst affected.
With initial reports showing that the destruction caused by Cyclone Ditwah now exceeding over $3 billion here in Sri Lanka, the island nation will need any and all financial assistance that could be given not only by international lending institutions, but also by the international community at large. This is Sri Lanka's worst natural disaster in 2 decades that has already caused the loss of lives of over 400 individuals, and with 50,000 houses being damaged as a result of this cyclone.
On Tuesday, UNICEF said that over 275,000 children have been adversely affected by Cyclone Ditwah, with the number likely to rise further.
Cyclone Ditwah made landfall on the east coast in Sri Lanka, impacting over 275,000 children, who are amongst the over 1.4 million people affected across Sri Lanka. And with communications down and roads blocked, the true number of children impacted is likely even higher. Homes have been swept away, entire communities isolated, and the essential services children rely on, such as water, healthcare, and schooling, have been severely disrupted.
The government, facing opposition in the parliament and accused of limiting debate on the disaster, has issued an appeal for international aid and urged Sri Lankans abroad to donate money to support affected communities. India too has ramped up rescue efforts for its neighbouring country. On Monday, the Sri Lankan president received a phone call from India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who assured him of New Delhi's continued support for relief and recovery efforts. The Indian Air Force was quick to move relief supplies to cyclone-hit areas of the island nation. India has also taken a hit due to Cyclone Ditwah. In Tamil Nadu, at least 4 people lost their lives in rain-related incidents.
Let's also tell you that because of the impact of this weather system and the cyclone, there's been up to 4 deaths in Tamil Nadu as per the government, and this is because of wall collapse incidents and electrocution deaths. Let's also tell you that up to 85,000 acres of agricultural land where cultivation is underway, that's been affected due to the rain. While the intensity of the system has come down, what went wrong is that this system actually stayed parallel to the Chennai coast for well over 48 hours, and it kept yielding rainfall pretty much non-stop. This is what led to this kind of rainfall pouring in Chennai in a short duration. Let's also tell you that right now the weather system has lost its intensity. It has become a well-marked low pressure area, and it is traveling over inland Tamil Nadu. And as this system travels, it's expected to bring heavy to very heavy rainfall in different parts of the state, be it the coastal parts or the interior parts of the state.
As the Sri Lankans pick up the pieces of their lives, helped by the humanitarian aid flowing in from foreign governments and non-governmental organizations, it appears that the journey to recovery will be a long and arduous one.
The shooting near the White House on the 26th of November prompted an immediate halt to all Afghan visa processing, shattering their hopes of achieving the American dream. Thousands of Afghans sheltering in Pakistan have been left in limbo after the halt.
We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden.
A single incident has slammed the door shut for many. The abrupt suspension of U.S. visa processing has left Afghans scattered across Pakistan, gripped by fear that their only route to safety is rapidly vanishing. Following the shooting of 2 National Guard soldiers near the White House by an Afghan man, U.S. immigration authorities immediately halted all visa processing for Afghans. The attack shattered the hopes of tens of thousands of Afghans awaiting resettlement decisions in the United States.
There is, unfortunately, no future in Afghanistan. I am a journalist, and before the fall of the Republic to the Taliban, I was working as a reporter. If we are deported, first of all, there is no work there, and the situation is extremely bad, and I personally have life security problems.
In recent years, Pakistan has cracked down hard on undocumented Afghans. According to reports, more than 500,000 Afghans have been deported in the past year. Even those holding valid visas or United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees documents report frequent detentions, evictions, and demands for bribes. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees data, approximately 1.5 million registered Afghan refugees are residing in Pakistan currently. Additionally, the government estimates that since 2021, around 600,000 more Afghans have sought refuge in the country. The Taliban claims that Afghanistan is peaceful and safe for the return of its citizens. However, human rights organizations warn that former government employees, journalists, soldiers, and anyone linked to Western forces face the risks of detention, disappearance, or execution. Women endure sweeping restrictions on their movement, work, and education under Taliban rule. Afghans in Islamabad say they fear their families will hear news of their arrest or death if they go back.
Sometimes I think to myself that if I return to Afghanistan while I have no home there and no hope, what am I supposed to do? And regarding the issue of arrests, without any doubt, let me tell you something. Yesterday I learned that 4 journalists who were deported from Pakistan have disappeared and no one knows where they are. This is heartbreaking news. Dozens of journalists who are deported from here end up without any future, and some of them are arrested. I hope the US government pays serious attention to this issue.
During America's 20-year-long war, thousands of Afghans were employed as interpreters and local staff for US troops and aid groups. When the Taliban stormed back to power, the Biden administration swiftly launched Operation Ali's Welcome, a massive airlift and resettlement push ultimately bringing in around 77,000 to 90,000 Afghans through rigorous vetting. Interestingly, according to Homeland Security, White House shooter came to the United States through this program. Earlier this year, after Trump returned to power, he reinstated a travel ban targeting nationals from Afghanistan and 11 other countries, exempting only a few groups, such as special immigrant visa holders. He also ended the Temporary Protected Status program, which had shielded thousands of Afghans from deportation and allowed them to work legally in the U.S. Now, with visa processing frozen, Afghans who fled the Taliban say their last path to safety has vanished. Squeezed by Pakistan's mass deportations and the constant terror of forced return home, these desperate families face a crisis without end.
India's Border Security Force has issued new alerts over terror activity emerging from Pakistan. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh on Tuesday delivered a firm warning to Pakistan, saying that India is fully prepared to eliminate anyone who threatens the country's peace and harmony. Watch our next report.
Our GE unit is keeping a close watch on all the 69 active launching pads along the LOC, where around 100 to 120 terrorists have been waiting to infiltrate.
About 70 terror launching pads along the line of control are now active. That's the latest alert issued by India's Border Security Force. 7 months after India carried out Operation Sindoor, several launch pads have resurfaced according to the BSF. In a separate statement, it was stated that of the 72 terror launch pads that have been reactivated, 60 of them are situated beyond the LOC, and 12 of them are located across the international border in Pakistan's Sialkot and Zafarwal regions. The BSF official noted that each launch pad typically shelters 2 to 3 terrorists and that these groups wait for chances to cross the LOC or the international border and launch attacks against India.
Following the damage we had caused to launching pads of terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir frontier, we have intelligence inputs which indicate that some of the launching pads have been moved from the forward areas to different locations so that they are not in the firing range of Indian Army or BSF.
In the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, Pakistan had initially shifted these launch pads further away from the border. A total of 118 Pakistani posts that had been targeted, BSF forward positions along the international border and the LOC in Jammu province were extensively damaged during Operation Sindoor. But the reactivation has prompted heightened vigilance by Indian security forces. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has repeatedly given a stern warning to Pakistan. Recently, Rajnath Singh said that Operation Sindoor is a proof of India's befitting reply to those who do not understand the language of peace.
आप सबने देखा होगा इस बार का ऑपरेशन सिंदूर। बहनों भाइयों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में हमारे सेना के जवानों ने ये शौर्य और पराक्रम का परिचय दिया है। उसकी चर्चा केवल भारत की धरती पर ही नहीं होती है, बल्कि दुनिया के दूसरे देशों में भी होती है। हमने ये साफ संदेश दे दिया है, भारत एक शांति प्रिय देश है। भारत किसी को छेड़ता नहीं है, लेकिन भारत को यदि कोई छेड़ता है तो भारत उसे छोड़ता नहीं है। मेरे बहनों भाइयों, यह भी संदेश दे दिया।
To counter any threat, the BSF is maintaining strict vigilance with drones, modern surveillance radars, and advanced anti-drone technology to keep India's borders secure. Now let's take a look at what else is making headlines in our Inside South Asia wrap.
On the 2nd of December, a man convicted of murder was executed publicly at a sports stadium in eastern Afghanistan. Before the public execution, a UN human rights monitor had decried the act as inhumane, cruel and contrary to international law, but to no avail. Reportedly, the Taliban authorities encouraged people to attend the execution through widely shared official notices. Officials said the man, identified as Mangal, was one of several attackers who opened fire on a house in January, killing 10 people. The Supreme Court, after reviewing the case carefully and repeatedly, sentenced Mangal to retaliatory punishment. On Tuesday, in an act of retribution, he was shot 3 times by a relative of the victim before a crowd of thousands at a sports stadium in Khost. Mangal is the 12th person to be publicly executed since the Taliban stormed back to power in August 2021.
The 14th edition of the India-Maldives Joint Military Exercise, ECOWIRN, which translates to Friends, began at Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala on Tuesday. Running from 2nd of December to 15th of December, the 2-week-long drill brings together 45 soldiers from the Indian Army's Garhwal Rifles Battalion and an equal number from the Maldives National Defence Force. A shining example of India's neighborhood first policy, the exercise features tactical drills, joint mission planning, and the sharing of best practices, aimed at enhancing coordinated responses to common security challenges.
Defense Research and Development Organization, or DRDO, an agency under the Ministry of Defense in India, conducted a successful high-speed rocket sled test of a fighter aircraft escape system at controlled velocity at the Terminal Ballistics Research Laboratory in Chandigarh. Dynamic ejection tests are significantly more complex than static tests, and the successful test put India in an enviable elite club of nations, with advanced in-house escape testing capability. DRDO teamed up with the Aeronautical Development Agency and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited for the trial, simulating canopy fragilization pattern, ejection sequencing and complete aircrew recovery process. Describing the successful test as a significant milestone, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh lavished praise on DRDO, IAF, ADA and HAL.
Christians don Santa hats, ride camels and give out gifts. Well, that's the vibe of Christmas celebrations in Karachi, a sight you do not see too often. As we wrap up, we leave you with these visuals. Thank you for watching.